Lucas Reed stood outside the restaurant with his arms crossed, staring at the glass doors like they might bite him. His friends had set him up. Again. Another blind date. Another setup designed to embarrass the quiet single dad who didn't date, didn't go out, didn't do anything but work and raise his kid. He was 32 years old and supposedly needed saving from his own life. Fine. He'd show up, prove he wasn't scared, and be home before his son's bedtime. But when the door opened and Ava Collins walked in, younger than he expected, with eyes that didn't look away, and a smile that wasn't trying to sell him anything, Lucas felt the ground shift under his boots. This wasn't what he'd prepared for, not even close. If you want to see where this story goes, stay with me till the end. And hey, drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story's traveled. Hit that like button if you're ready for something real. The parking lot smelled like rain and hot asphalt. Lucas leaned against his truck, phone buzzing in his pocket for the third time in 5 minutes. He didn't check it. He already knew what it said. You actually going in, or are you going to stand out here all night looking tragic? The text was from Mike. Of course it was. Mike, his oldest friend since high school, the guy who thought Lucas's entire life needed an intervention. The same guy who'd probably set this whole thing up just to watch him squirm. Mike had been on him for months now, ever since last Christmas, when Lucas had shown up to their family dinner alone for the 4th year in a row, and Mike's wife Claire had given him that look. The one that said she felt sorry for him. The one that made Lucas want to leave before dessert. Lucas pocketed the phone and pushed off the truck. The restaurant was one of those places that tried too hard, dim lighting that made everyone look better than they actually did. Candles on every table flickering like they were in some romantic movie, and a host in a black vest who smiled like he was being paid by the tooth. The whole place screamed first date, which made Lucas's skin crawl. He gave his name at the podium, and the host led him through the crowded dining room to a table by the window. Lucas sat down, ordered water from a server who appeared out of nowhere, and checked his watch. 7:15. He'd give it until 7:30. If she didn't show, he'd leave and tell Mike the whole thing was a bust. If she did show and it was as bad as he expected, he'd finish one drink, make polite conversation for exactly 30 minutes, and leave. Either way, he wasn't staying long. His phone buzzed again. Don't bail, I swear this one's different. Lucas almost laughed out loud. Mike had said that about the last 2 setups. One had spent the entire dinner talking about her ex-husband and how he'd ruined her ability to trust men. The other had asked him within the first 5 minutes if he believed in astrology, and then looked genuinely offended when he said he didn't really think about it much. That date had ended before the appetizers arrived. He was about to text back something sarcastic when the door opened, bringing in a gust of cool evening air. She wasn't what he expected. Ava Collins stepped inside, pausing just past the threshold to scan the room with a kind of focused calm that made her stand out immediately. She was younger, mid-20s maybe, but she didn't carry herself like someone trying to prove anything. No dress that screamed, "Look at me." No makeup that looked like it took an hour. She wore dark jeans and a navy sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail that looked practical rather than styled. Simple. Real. When her eyes found his across the room, she didn't wave enthusiastically or flash a big smile. She just walked over with purpose. Lucas? Yeah, Ava? That's me. She slid into the seat across from him, setting her canvas bag down beside her chair. She had paint stains on one finger, Lucas noticed. So, this is weird, right? He blinked, caught off guard by the directness. What? This. She gestured between them with one hand, her expression completely frank. The whole setup thing. I'm guessing your friends ambushed you too? Lucas leaned back in his chair, reassessing. Something like that. Yeah. My roommate told me it was a casual group thing, didn't mention it was a blind date until I was already in the car on the way here. Ava shook her head, but there was no bitterness in it, just dry amusement and what looked like resignation. So here we are, 2 people who got tricked into this. The waiter appeared with menus and took their drink orders. Lucas got a beer, nothing fancy, just whatever they had on tap, and Ava asked for a glass of red wine. When the waiter left, they were alone again, the noise of the restaurant filling the silence that threatened to grow awkward. You don't have to stay, Lucas said, deciding honesty was better than pretending. If you want to leave, I'm not going to take it personal. I'll tell your roommate you were here, we gave it a shot, whatever you need. Ava tilted her head, studying him with those calm eyes. Do you want me to leave? I didn't say that. Then I'll stay. She opened her menu, flipping through it without much interest, like she was buying time to think. Besides, I already lied to my roommate and told her I'd give it at least an hour. If I leave now, she'll never let me hear the end of it. She'll say I didn't even try. Lucas found himself almost smiling. Your roommate sounds like my friend Mike. Is Mike the one who set this up? Him and his wife Claire. They've been trying to fix my life for the past year. Maybe longer. Lucas took a drink of the water the server had brought. They think I need saving. And do you? Lucas considered the question. Depends on who you ask. I'm asking you. He looked at her directly. No, I don't think I need saving. I think I need people to stop assuming they know what's best for me. Ava nodded slowly. I get that. My roommate Jennifer thinks I'm too cautious, that I don't put myself out there enough, that I'm wasting my 20s being careful. And are you? Probably. She met his gaze without flinching. But after what I've been through, careful doesn't seem like the worst thing to be. The waiter came back with their drinks. Lucas took a long pull from his beer, and Ava sipped her wine, watching him over the rim of the glass. She didn't look uncomfortable, didn't look like she was performing or trying to impress him. She just looked present, which was more than Lucas could say for most of the people he'd met in the past few years. So, she said, setting down her glass, what do you do? I'm a carpenter, work for a small company that does residential stuff. Build decks, fix porches, renovations, that kind of thing. You like it? Yeah, I do. It's honest work. I can see what I've built at the end of the day. That's good. A lot of people don't get that. Ava traced the rim of her wine glass with one finger. Most people spend their whole lives doing stuff they hate just to pay bills. Lucas studied her. What about you? What do you do? I work at a bookstore downtown. It's part-time. I'm also taking classes at the community college. For what? Teaching, elementary education. She paused like she was waiting for a reaction. I know it's not glamorous or anything. Didn't say it wasn't. You didn't have to. Most people hear teacher and think it's cute or sweet or whatever, like it's not a real career. Lucas shook his head. Teaching's harder than most people think. My kid's teacher, she's basically the reason he's not a complete disaster. I have no idea how she handles 25 7-year-olds all day without losing her mind. Ava's expression shifted slightly, softening. You have a kid? Yeah, Noah. He's 7. She didn't react the way most women did when he mentioned Noah. Didn't flinch or pull back or start doing mental calculations about what that meant for her. Didn't ask the careful questions designed to figure out if there was an ex-wife in the picture and how messy that situation was. She just nodded, her expression open. That's a good age. Old enough to have real conversations, young enough that they still think you know everything. Lucas smiled despite himself. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Though he's starting to figure out I don't actually know everything, which is terrifying. Are you? Ava hesitated, then seemed to decide to just ask. Are you doing it alone? Raising him? Yeah, his mom left when he was 2. Decided she wasn't ready to be a parent, so it's just me and him. Ava didn't push for details. Didn't try to dig into what happened or offer sympathy that would make him feel worse. She just took another sip of her wine and said, That sounds really hard. It is, but it's worth it. He's a good kid. I'm sure he is. If you're raising him, he'd have to be. Lucas looked at her, surprised by the comment. You don't know that. Maybe not. But you showed up tonight even though you clearly didn't want to. You're honest about your life instead of trying to hide it. Those aren't small things. The food came before Lucas could figure out how to respond to that. Neither of them had really ordered with intent, so it was just appetizers, mozzarella sticks and loaded potato skins, the kind of food that kept your hands busy. They ate in comfortable silence for a minute, the sounds of the restaurant washing over them. So why did your friends think you needed setting up? Ava asked eventually, dragging a mozzarella stick through marinara sauce. Lucas huffed a laugh. Because I don't go out, don't date, don't do much of anything except work and take care of Noah. They think that's depressing. And is it? Depressing? No. Safe? Yeah, probably. There's nothing wrong with safe. That's what I keep telling them. But Mike and Claire, they keep saying I'm hiding, that I'm using Noah as an excuse to not live my own life. Are you? Lucas set down his beer. I don't know. Maybe. After Noah's mom left, I shut down that part of my life. It was easier that way, less complicated. And Noah needed me to be stable, not a mess. Ava nodded slowly. That makes sense, but you can be stable and still have a life. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Easy to say, harder to do. Yeah, I get that. She wiped her fingers on her napkin. What about you? Why did your roommate ambush you? Ava smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. She thinks I'm too cautious, that I don't put myself out there enough, that I need to stop being so scared of getting hurt again. Again? Yeah. Ava looked down at her plate. I was in a relationship for almost 2 years. It ended about 8 months ago, and it wasn't good toward the end. Lucas waited, not pushing. His name was Derek, Ava continued, her voice quieter now. He was older, confident, had his whole life figured out. At least that's what I thought. And I guess I thought if I could just fit into his life the way he wanted, everything would work. But it didn't, because he didn't want a partner. He wanted someone who'd make his life easier without asking for anything back. That sounds like a bad deal. It was, but I didn't see it at the time. I just kept trying harder, kept making myself smaller, kept hoping that if I could be what he needed, he'd finally see me the way I wanted to be seen. She looked up, meeting Lucas's eyes. He didn't. And when I finally left, I felt like I'd lost something. Not him, but the part of me that used to believe I was worth showing up for. Lucas felt something tighten in his chest. I'm sorry that happened to you. Thanks. I'm working on it. Trying to believe I'm not that person anymore, the one who makes herself small for someone else. You don't seem small to me. Ava smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Thanks. That actually means something. They stayed another hour, the conversation drifting naturally from one topic to another. Favorite books? Ava liked literary fiction and memoirs. Lucas admitted he mostly read thrillers when he had time. The weird things kids say. Noah had recently asked if clouds were just sky sweat, which had made Lucas laugh for a solid 5 minutes. The smell of rain, which they both agreed was better than any candle. The best kind of coffee. Ava was a dark roast person. Lucas didn't care as long as it was hot and strong. Whether or not people actually liked small talk or just pretended to, they both agreed it was mostly pretending. Lucas found himself forgetting to check his watch, forgetting that this was supposed to be a favor to Mike, forgetting that he'd planned to leave after 30 minutes. When the bill came, he reached for it before Ava could. We can split it, she said. I know, but I'm not gonna. She didn't argue, just gave him a look that said she noticed and appreciated it. They paid and walked out together into the cool night air. The parking lot was half empty now, the streetlights buzzing overhead, casting everything in orange light. They walked toward their cars slowly, neither in a rush to end the evening. So, Ava said, stopping beside a small blue sedan, that wasn't terrible. No, it wasn't. Your friends are going to be insufferable about this. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the texts I'm going to get in about 5 minutes. She smiled, pulling her keys from her bag. Would you? If you wanted to, would you want to do this again sometime? Lucas hesitated, but not because he didn't want to. He hesitated because he did want to, and that scared him more than he'd expected. Wanting something meant risking it, risking getting hurt, risking Noah getting attached to someone who might leave. All the things he'd been avoiding for the past 5 years. But standing here, looking at Ava in the orange streetlight, he realized he was tired of being scared. Yeah, he said. I would. Ava's smile widened, genuine and relieved. Good. That's good. She got in her car and Lucas watched her pull out of the lot, her taillights disappearing around the corner. Then he walked to his truck and sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. His phone buzzed the second he turned the key. Well? Lucas stared at Mike's text for a long moment. Then he typed back. She's different. Mike's response was instant. Told you. Details. Now. Lucas ignored him and started driving. The radio was off, the windows cracked, the night air pouring in. His mind kept replaying the evening, the way Ava had looked at him without pretense, the way she'd talked about her past without making him feel like he had to fix anything. The way she'd smiled when he said he wanted to see her again. When he got home, Noah was already asleep, sprawled in his bed with one arm hanging off the side. Mike's teenage niece was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "How'd it go, Mr. Reed?" "Fine." "That's it? Just fine?" Lucas handed her 2 20s, more than they'd agreed on. "Thanks for watching him, Sarah." She pocketed the cash, grinning. "Uncle Mike's gonna want details, you know." "Uncle Mike can wait." After Sarah left, Lucas checked on Noah one more time, still dead to the world, mouth open, drooling slightly on his pillow, and then went to the kitchen. He poured himself a glass of water and stood by the window, looking out at the dark street. He thought about Ava, the way she'd been so direct about everything, the way she hadn't flinched when he mentioned Noah, the way she'd talked about being scared to try again, about making herself small for someone who didn't deserve it. And he thought about the last time he'd let someone in. Noah's mom, Kristen. How they'd met in their early 20s, how it had felt easy and right at first. How they'd gotten pregnant accidentally but decided to keep the baby, to make it work. How Lucas had proposed because it seemed like the right thing to do, not because he was sure. And how 2 years after Noah was born, she'd left. Just packed a bag one morning while Noah was at daycare, left a note on the kitchen counter that said she couldn't do it anymore. That she wasn't cut out for this, that she was sorry. Lucas had come home from work to find the note and an empty closet. No warning, no conversation, just gone. He'd been angry for months, then hurt, then just numb. He'd focused everything on Noah, on building a life that was stable and predictable, on making sure his son never felt abandoned the way Lucas had felt. But somewhere in all of that, he'd stopped trying, stopped believing that letting someone in was worth the risk. Until tonight. Standing in his quiet kitchen, looking out at the empty street, Lucas made a decision. He was going to try. Not because Mike and Claire thought he should, not because he was lonely or desperate, but because Ava had shown up tonight and been real with him, and that was rare enough to be worth the risk. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Mike. "Claire wants to know if we should plan a double date." Lucas smiled and typed back, "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." But even as he sent it, he was already thinking about when he could see Ava again. The next morning, Lucas woke up to Noah jumping on his bed at 7:30, which was late for Noah and early for Lucas. "Dad, Dad, Dad." Lucas groaned, pulling the pillow over his face. "What? Can we go to the park?" "Noah, it's Saturday." "So?" "So I was sleeping." "You said we could go this weekend. You promised." Lucas sighed and sat up, rubbing his eyes. Noah was standing on the bed in his pajamas, grinning like he'd already won. "Fine, but you're making your own breakfast. Deal." By 9, they were at the park. It was one of those perfect fall mornings, cool but not cold, the sky so blue it hurt to look at, leaves crunching underfoot. Noah ran straight for the playground, and Lucas sat on a bench with his coffee, watching his son swing higher and higher, shouting for Lucas to look every 30 seconds. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He opened the text, his chest tightening slightly. "Hey, it's Ava. Mike gave me your number. Hope that's okay." Lucas stared at the message for a second, then smiled. "It's okay." "How'd your roommate take it?" 3 dots appeared, then, "She's already planning what I should wear for date number 2. You?" "Mike's the same. Wants to plan a double date. Should we be worried?" "Probably." There was a pause, then another message. "Are you busy today?" Lucas looked at Noah, who was now trying to convince another kid to help him dig a hole to China. "I'm at the park with my kid." "Why?" "I was thinking of taking a walk by the lake later, around 2, if you're free." Lucas thought about all the reasons he should say no, about taking things slow, about not rushing into something just because last night felt good, about protecting Noah from getting attached too fast. Then he thought about the way Ava had looked at him across the table, the way she'd been honest about being scared, the way she hadn't run when he mentioned Noah. "What lake?" "Birch Lake, the state park about 20 minutes out." "I know it, I'll be there." "Just you?" Lucas hesitated. "Yeah. Noah's got plans with Mike's kids this afternoon." That was a lie, but he'd make it true. "Okay, see you at 2, Lucas called Mike immediately. "Can Noah hang out with your kids this afternoon?" Mike's voice was smug. Date number 2 already? Can he or not? Yeah, of course. Bring him by whenever, but you owe me details. Later. Lucas. He hung up and walked over to Noah, who was now covered in dirt and absolutely thrilled about it. Hey, bud. How'd you feel about hanging with Tyler and Emma this afternoon? Noah's eyes lit up. Really? Yeah, Uncle Mike said you could come over. Can we play video games? That's between you and Uncle Mike. Yes! Noah pumped his fist and went back to his hole. Lucas sat back down on the bench, looking at his phone, at Ava's messages, at the fact that he'd just lied to see her again, which felt both ridiculous and completely necessary. He was doing this, really doing this, and for the first time in years, that didn't scare him as much as it probably should have. At 1:30, Lucas dropped Noah off at Mike's house. Claire answered the door, looking far too pleased with herself. So, Ava, don't start. I'm not starting. I'm just saying. I told Mike she was perfect for you. Claire. She held up her hand, smiling. Have fun. Don't overthink it. I don't overthink things. Yes, you do, but go anyway. Lucas drove to Birch Lake, arriving 10 minutes early. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a couple of cars and a family loading up their gear. He parked and got out, walking toward the trailhead. Ava was already there, leaning against her car, hands in the pockets of a green jacket, looking out at the water. She turned when she heard his truck and smiled. You made it. Said I would. They started walking without discussion, falling into step beside each other on the narrow trail that wound through the trees. The lake stretched out to their left, calm and gray under the afternoon sky. Neither of them spoke for the first few minutes, just walked, breathing in the cool air. Finally, Ava broke the silence. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why'd you really show up last night? Not the answer you gave me at the restaurant, the real one. Lucas thought about it, hands in his pockets, eyes on the trail ahead. I wanted to prove something to myself, I guess. What? That I could still do it, still show up for something that felt risky, still try, even if it went nowhere. And did you? Prove it? Yeah, I think so. Ava nodded slowly. I almost didn't come. I sat in my car for like 10 minutes, trying to talk myself into just driving home. What changed your mind? I don't know. Stubbornness, maybe? Or just curiosity. I wanted to see if I could do it without falling apart. And did you? She looked at him, a small smile on her face. Yeah, I did. They walked in silence again, the trail opening up to a wider section with benches overlooking the water. They sat down, and Lucas stretched his legs out, watching a pair of ducks glide across the surface. This is nice, Ava said. Yeah. Do you come here a lot? Used to, before Noah. Haven't been out here in probably 2 years. Why not? Lucas shrugged. Life gets busy. Work, kid, keeping everything running. Places like this start to feel like luxuries you can't afford. That's sad. Maybe, but it's also just reality. Ava turned to look at him. You deserve luxuries too, you know, even if you're a single dad, especially because you're a single dad. Lucas didn't know what to say to that, so he just looked at her, really looked, at the way the light caught her hair, at the earnestness in her expression, at the fact that she was here at all. What are you thinking? She asked. That I'm glad you came last night, and that I'm glad you're here now. Ava's cheeks flushed slightly, but she held his gaze. Me too. They stayed at the lake for over an hour, talking about everything and nothing. Ava told him about growing up in a small town 3 hours north, about her parents who were still together but constantly bickering, about her younger brother who was in the military. Lucas told her about his grandfather's cabin, about learning carpentry from his dad, about the weird satisfaction of building something with your hands. When they finally stood to leave, the sun was starting to dip toward the horizon, casting everything in gold. Thank you for this, Ava said as they walked back to the parking lot. For what? For meeting me here. For not making it weird. Lucas smiled. You too. They stood by their cars for a moment, neither quite ready to leave. Can I see you again? Lucas asked. Yeah, definitely. When? Whenever you want. Lucas thought about his schedule, about Noah, about all the logistics that made dating as a single parent complicated. Then he decided to stop overthinking it, Tuesday? Dinner? I work until 7. 7:30? Ava smiled. Yeah, that works. She stepped closer, and for a second Lucas thought she might kiss him. Instead, she just squeezed his hand once, then got in her car. Lucas watched her drive away, then sat in his truck for a minute, hands on the wheel, trying to process what he was feeling. It felt like hope and possibility, and the beginning of something that might actually matter. His phone buzzed. Mike. How'd it go? Lucas smiled and typed back. Good, really good. Mike. Details. Lucas put the phone down and started driving. Details could wait. Right now, he just wanted to sit with this feeling a little longer. When Lucas picked up Noah from Mike's house that evening, his son was buzzing with energy and covered in what looked like pizza sauce. We played zombies, and I was the last survivor, and Tyler said I cheated, but I didn't. I just hid really good in the closet and breathe, bud. Noah took a dramatic breath, then kept going. Can I go back next week? Please? Mike said maybe we could build a fort in the backyard. We'll see. Mike appeared in the doorway, grinning like he knew every secret in the world. So, how was your afternoon? Fine. Just fine? Lucas shot him a look. Thanks for watching him. Anytime. But you're going to tell me about this eventually. Yeah, eventually. On the drive home, Noah finally wound down enough to ask the question Lucas had been expecting. Where'd you go? Just out for a walk? By yourself? Lucas hesitated. He'd never lied to Noah, not about anything important, but he also wasn't sure how to explain this yet. No, I met up with someone. Who? A friend. Her name's Ava. Noah was quiet for a second, processing. Is she your girlfriend? I don't know yet, maybe. Do you like her? Yeah, I do. Does she like you? Lucas smiled despite himself. I think so. Okay. Noah went back to looking out the window, apparently satisfied. Then, after a minute, is she nice? Yeah, bud, she's nice. Good, because you should only date nice people. Lucas glanced at his son in the rearview mirror. Where'd you learn that? Tyler's mom said it, when his dad started dating again after the divorce. Lucas had forgotten that Mike's neighbor had gone through a divorce last year. Apparently the kids talked about it. Well, Tyler's mom is right. That seemed to settle it for Noah. He went back to humming some song from a video game, and Lucas focused on the road, his mind already drifting back to the lake, to the way Ava had looked standing by the water, to the fact that he'd see her again on Tuesday. The next 2 days crawled by. Lucas worked on a deck renovation in the suburbs, replacing rotted boards and reinforcing the frame. The client was a middle-aged woman who changed her mind every 20 minutes about stain colors and kept asking if Lucas thought her husband would like it. Lucas gave non-committal answers and focused on the work, but his mind kept wandering. Monday night, he got a text from Ava. Still on for tomorrow? Yeah, where do you want to go? Somewhere low-key? I get off work exhausted, and I'm not really a fancy restaurant person. Me neither. There's a diner on 5th that's pretty good. Nothing special, but the food's solid. Perfect. See you at 7:30? I'll be there. Tuesday evening, Lucas dropped Noah off at Mike's again. This time Claire answered, and she didn't even try to hide her smile. 2 dates in 4 days. That's progress. It's just dinner. Sure it is. She leaned against the doorframe. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're doing this. You deserve something good. Lucas didn't know how to respond to that, so he just nodded and left. The diner was exactly what he'd promised. Nothing fancy, just booths with cracked vinyl and a menu that hadn't changed in 20 years. Lucas got there first and grabbed a booth in the back. He ordered coffee and checked his phone, feeling more nervous than he had on Friday. Ava walked in at 7:35, still wearing her work clothes, dark jeans and a bookstore t-shirt under her jacket. She looked tired, but smiled when she saw him. Sorry I'm late. A customer came in at 7 asking for book recommendations and wouldn't leave. It's fine. I just got here. She slid into the booth across from him, dropping her bag on the seat. This place is perfect. I was worried you'd pick somewhere I'd have to dress up for. Not my style. Good, because this is as dressed up as I get most days. They ordered burgers and fries for both of them, nothing complicated, and fell into conversation easily. Ava told him about her day, about the regular customer who only bought true crime books and always paid an exact change, about her class on child development, where half the students were parents themselves and had strong opinions about everything. Lucas told her about the deck job, about the client who couldn't make up her mind, about Noah's latest obsession with building traps for imaginary intruders. He's watched Home Alone too many times, Lucas said. Now he thinks he needs to defend the house from bad guys. Ava laughed. That's kind of adorable. It's adorable until you step on a Lego he's strategically placed in the hallway. Okay, that's less adorable. The food came and they ate while talking about smaller things, favorite childhood memories. Ava's involved a treehouse her dad built that eventually collapsed. Lucas's involved fishing with his grandfather at dawn. The worst jobs they'd ever had. Ava had worked at a call center for 3 months and hated every second. Lucas had spent a summer doing data entry and nearly lost his mind. Whether morning people were actually real or just lying, they both agreed it was probably lying. Halfway through the meal, Ava set down her burger and looked at him directly. Can I ask you something? Sure. How long has it been since Noah's mom left? Lucas wiped his hands on a napkin, thinking about how to answer. 5 years. He was 2 when she left, barely remembers her now. Does he ask about her? Sometimes, usually when other kids talk about their moms. I try to be honest without making her sound like a villain. That's hard. Yeah. Lucas took a drink of his coffee. I don't want him growing up thinking she left because of him. But I also don't want to lie and make it seem like she had some good reason. She just wasn't ready. And instead of staying and trying, she left. Ava nodded slowly. Do you ever hear from her? No, she signed away her parental rights about 6 months after she left. Sent the papers through a lawyer. I haven't talked to her since. That's awful. It was. For a while I was angry, really angry. Felt like she'd taken the easy way out and left me to clean up the mess. But eventually I realized staying angry wasn't helping Noah, so I just focused on being there for him. And now? Lucas thought about it. Now I barely think about her. Sometimes I wonder if she regrets it, but mostly I just feel nothing. She's a stranger who happens to share DNA with my kid. Ava was quiet for a moment, then said, Noah's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have him. They finished eating and ordered pie, apple for Lucas, cherry for Ava, and kept talking. The diner was nearly empty now, just them and an older couple in the corner and a guy at the counter nursing a cup of coffee. What about your family? Lucas asked. You said your parents are still together? Yeah, 32 years and counting. They bicker constantly, but they're solid. My mom's a nurse, my dad runs a hardware store in my hometown. Brothers? Sisters? One brother. He's 23, in the Army, stationed in Texas right now. We're not super close, but we text sometimes. And they know about the teaching thing? That you're going back to school? Ava's expression shifted slightly. They know. My mom's supportive. My dad thinks I should just get a full-time job and stop messing around with school. Why? Because he's practical. And in his mind, I'm almost 26 and should have my life figured out by now. The fact that I'm working part-time at a bookstore and taking community college classes doesn't exactly scream success to him. That's not fair. Maybe not. But he's not totally wrong either. Most people my age are already established in careers. I'm still figuring out what I want to be when I grow up. Lucas shook his head. There's no timeline for that. My dad didn't figure out what he wanted to do until he was 35. Spent years bouncing between jobs before he started his own carpentry business. Some people take longer. That's okay. Ava looked at him, and something in her expression softened. You're really good at that. At what? Making me feel like I'm not failing at life. You're not failing. You're just on a different path. She smiled, but there was sadness behind it. Derek used to say the opposite, that I was wasting time, that I needed to get serious, that I'd never amount to anything if I didn't have a real plan. Lucas felt his jaw tighten. Derek sounds like he was wrong about a lot of things. He was, but when you hear something enough times, you start to believe it. Yeah, I get that. They sat in comfortable silence for a minute, the sounds of the diner filling the space between them. Finally, Ava spoke again. Can I tell you something? Always. I'm scared of screwing this up. Lucas looked at her. Screwing what up? This, us, whatever this is, she gestured between them. I like you, Lucas, more than I expected to. And that terrifies me because every time I've liked someone, I've ended up making myself smaller to fit into their life. And I don't want to do that again. Then don't. It's not that simple. Why not? Ava took a breath. Because I don't know how to be in something without losing myself. With Derek, I spent 2 years trying to be what he wanted, and by the end, I didn't even recognize myself anymore. Lucas reached across the table and took her hand. I'm not Derek, and I'm not asking you to be anything other than what you are. You say that now. I'll say it tomorrow too, and the day after that. Ava's eyes filled slightly, but she blinked the tears back. I want to believe you. Then do. She squeezed his hand. I'm trying. When they left the diner, it was almost 10. They stood in the parking lot, neither quite ready to say goodnight. I had a good time, Ava said. Me too. Can we do this again? Yeah, definitely. Ava stepped closer, and this time she did kiss him. It was brief, soft, but it felt like a promise. When she pulled back, she was smiling. Good night, Lucas. Good night. He watched her drive away, then got in his truck and sat there for a minute, his chest tight in a way that wasn't bad, just big, like something was opening up inside him that had been closed for a long time. His phone buzzed. Mike? How'd it go? Lucas typed back. Good. That's all I get? For now. He drove to Mike's house to pick up Noah, who was asleep on the couch. Lucas carried him to the truck, and Noah barely stirred, just mumbled something about zombies and curled into the blanket. When they got home, Lucas put Noah to bed and then stood in the doorway for a minute, watching his son sleep. He thought about what Ava had said, about being scared of screwing things up, about not knowing how to be in something without losing herself. Lucas understood that fear. He'd felt it himself, the fear that letting someone in meant risking everything he'd built. But standing there, looking at Noah, he realized something. He'd been so focused on protecting his son from getting hurt that he'd forgotten Noah might also benefit from seeing his dad happy, from seeing what it looked like when two people treated each other well. Maybe taking the risk wasn't just about Lucas anymore. Maybe it was about showing Noah that trying was worth it, even when it was scary. The following Thursday, Lucas was under a deck when his phone rang. He ignored it the first time. His hands were full of a support beam that didn't want to cooperate, and his shoulder was wedged against wood that smelled like rot. The second time it rang, he cursed, set everything down, and crawled out into the daylight. It was the school. His stomach dropped immediately. Mr. Reed? Yeah, that's me. This is Principal Harmon. Noah's fine, but we need you to come pick him up. Lucas was already walking toward his truck, brushing sawdust off his jeans. What happened? There was an incident at recess. He got into a physical altercation with another student. A fight? Noah doesn't fight. Well, he did today. Can you come get him? Lucas didn't bother answering. He just hung up and drove, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. When he got to the school, Noah was sitting outside the principal's office, arms crossed, staring at the floor with the kind of intensity that meant he was either furious or holding back tears. His shirt was dirty, and there was a scrape on his elbow that looked fresh. He looked small, sitting there in the hallway, and Lucas felt his chest tighten. Hey, bud. Noah didn't look up, didn't say anything. Principal Harmon stepped out of her office, and Lucas recognized her immediately. She'd been principal for 3 years, had a reputation for being fair but firm. She gestured for Lucas to come inside, and he followed, glancing back at Noah, who still hadn't moved. Harmon closed the door and sat down behind her desk, folding her hands in that way authority figures do when they're about to deliver bad news calmly. What happened? Lucas asked, not bothering to sit. Noah got into an argument with another boy during recess, a second grader named Kyle. It escalated quickly. Kyle said something that upset Noah, and Noah shoved him, hard enough that Kyle fell and scraped his hands pretty badly. Lucas felt his jaw tighten. What did Kyle say? Harmon hesitated, which told Lucas everything. Something about Noah not having a mother. Lucas closed his eyes, took a breath. When he opened them, Harmon was watching him carefully. I see, Lucas said quietly. Noah's not in serious trouble, Harmon continued. This isn't like him at all. He's usually one of our quieter, more cooperative students. but we have a zero-tolerance policy for physical violence, so I did need to call you. I also wanted to talk to you before sending him home, see if there's anything going on we should know about. No, nothing going on. He's just dealing with the same thing he's been dealing with his whole life. Harmon nodded. I understand this is difficult, and I want you to know we're addressing it from both sides. Kyle's parents are being called in as well to discuss appropriate behavior. Good. I'd like Noah to come back tomorrow ready to focus on better choices. Can you talk to him about managing his emotions without physical responses? Yeah, I'll talk to him. Lucas left the office and crouched down in front of Noah, who was still staring at the floor, jaw clenched. Let's go. Noah stood without a word and followed him to the truck. They drove in silence for the first 10 minutes, Lucas giving his son space to process whatever he was feeling. Finally, Noah spoke, his voice tight. I didn't mean to push him that hard. I know. But he wouldn't stop talking. What'd he say exactly? Noah's hands clenched into fists in his lap. He said I didn't have a mom, that she probably left because I was too annoying to deal with. That's why nobody wanted to be around me. Lucas pulled over. Not abruptly, just eased the truck onto the shoulder and put it in park. He turned to face Noah, who was staring out the window, his eyes wet but defiant. Look at me. Noah didn't move. Noah, look at me. Slowly, Noah turned his head. His eyes were red, but he wasn't crying. Not yet. He was holding it together through sheer willpower, and Lucas felt his heart break a little. That kid's an idiot, Lucas said firmly. And what he said, it's not true, not even a little bit. Then why isn't she here? Lucas took a breath. They'd had this conversation before, but it never got easier. Your mom left because she wasn't ready to be a parent. That was her choice, and it had nothing to do with you. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why does it feel like I did? Lucas reached over and put a hand on Noah's shoulder, because people say stupid, cruel things when they don't understand, and it hurts. I get that, but you can't let them make you believe something that isn't true. Noah wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, smearing dirt across his face. I hate that she's not here. I know. Do you hate her? Lucas thought about how to answer that. I used to, but now I mostly just don't think about her. She made her choice, and we made ours. And our life is pretty good, isn't it? Noah nodded slowly. Yeah, it is. So don't let some kid who doesn't know anything make you think otherwise. They sat there for another minute, the engine idling, cars passing by on the road. Eventually, Noah leaned against Lucas's side, and Lucas put his arm around him. You're not annoying, Lucas said quietly. You're a good kid, and I'm lucky I get to be your dad. Noah didn't say anything, just nodded against Lucas's shoulder. They got home around 2. Lucas made grilled cheese sandwiches and let Noah pick the movie, some animated thing about cars that Lucas had seen at least 40 times but never complained about. Halfway through, Noah fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from the emotional weight of the day. Lucas covered him with a blanket and stepped outside onto the porch. He needed air, needed to think. His phone buzzed. It was Ava. Hey, you okay? You didn't answer earlier. Lucas had completely forgotten she'd texted him that morning. Yeah, sorry, just dealing with some stuff with Noah. Everything okay? It is now. You sure? Lucas hesitated, then typed, Can I call you later? Of course. He waited until Noah woke up around 4, groggy and disoriented, before calling Ava. He stepped back onto the porch while Noah watched TV inside. She picked up on the second ring. Hey. Hey. Her voice was soft, concerned. What's going on? Lucas told her everything, about the fight, about what Kyle had said, about the look on Noah's face when he'd asked why it felt like he'd done something wrong, about trying to explain for the 100th time that his mother leaving wasn't his fault. Ava listened without interrupting, and when Lucas finished, she was quiet for a long moment. That's a lot for a 7-year-old to carry, she said finally. Yeah. How's he doing now? Asleep earlier, watching TV now, but I don't know, I feel like I'm failing him somehow. You're not. How do you know? Because you showed up, you listened, you told him the truth without making him feel worse. That's more than a lot of kids get, Lucas. Lucas leaned against the porch railing, staring out at the street. I just want him to be okay. He will be, because he's got you. Lucas didn't know what to say to that, so he just let the silence sit there, warm and solid, like Ava was standing right next to him even though she wasn't. You want company? Ava asked suddenly. I could come over, bring ice cream or something. No pressure, just if you want. Lucas thought about it. About Noah meeting Ava properly. About whether it was too soon, whether it would complicate things. Then he thought about how much he wanted her there anyway. Yeah, I'd like that. Okay, give me 20 minutes. She showed up in 22, carrying a bag from the corner store and wearing the same sweater she'd worn the first night they met. What'd you bring? Lucas asked, opening the door. Mint chocolate chip, and some regular chocolate because I wasn't sure what Noah liked. You didn't have to do that. I know, but I wanted to. Noah looked up from the couch when they walked in, eyes widening slightly when he saw Ava. Hi, she said, giving him a small wave. I'm Ava, your dad's friend. Noah looked at Lucas, then back at Ava. Hi. I heard you had a rough day. Thought you might want some ice cream. Noah's expression brightened slightly. What kind? Chocolate. And there's mint chocolate chip if you want to try it. I like chocolate. Good choice. They ate ice cream on the couch, bowls balanced on their laps, the movie still playing in the background. Ava asked Noah about school, carefully avoiding the incident, and Noah told her about his favorite subject, gym, and his least favorite, spelling. She asked if he played any sports, and he said he wanted to try soccer, but didn't know if he'd be good at it. The only way to find out is to try, Ava said. That's what Dad says. Your dad's smart. Noah glanced at Lucas, a small smile tugging at his mouth. Sometimes. After the ice cream was gone and the movie ended, Noah announced he was going to his room to build something with Legos. Ava started cleaning up the bowls and Lucas joined her in the kitchen. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For coming. For being good with him. For just being here. Ava rinsed a bowl and set it in the dish rack. I meant what I said earlier. You're doing a good job with him. Most days it doesn't feel like it. That's because you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't worry about whether you're doing it right. Lucas leaned against the counter watching her. How'd you get so wise? I'm not wise. I just pay attention. They finished cleaning up in comfortable silence, moving around each other in the small kitchen like they'd done this before. When everything was put away, Ava turned to face him. I should probably go. Let you guys have your evening. You don't have to. I know, but I want to give Noah some space. Today was hard for him. Lucas walked her to the door. On the porch, Ava turned back to face him, the evening light catching her face. Can I say something? She asked. Always. I like this. Being here with you and Noah, it feels real. And I know that's scary for both of us, but I wanted you to know. Lucas stepped closer. I like it too. Yeah? Yeah. Ava smiled, then stood on her toes and kissed him. It was soft, quick, but it felt like a promise. Good night, Lucas. Good night. He watched her drive away, then stood on the porch for a long time, hands in his pockets, thinking about everything that had happened today. About Noah's pain, about Ava showing up without being asked, about how natural it felt to have her in his house, talking to his son, making everything feel a little less heavy. When he went back inside, Noah was in his room, building what looked like a spaceship. Hey, bud. Noah looked up. Is Ava your girlfriend? Lucas sat down on the floor next to him. I think so. Is that okay? Noah thought about it, snapping 2 Lego pieces together. She's nice, and she brought ice cream. She did. Can she come over again? You want her to? Noah nodded. Yeah, she talks to me like I'm not a little kid. Lucas smiled. Okay, I'll ask her. Dad? Yeah? Thanks for picking me up today, and for not being mad about the fight. Lucas put his arm around Noah's shoulders. I'll always pick you up, bud, no matter what. That night after Noah was asleep, Lucas sat on the edge of his bed and texted Ava. Noah asked if you could come over again. Her response came quickly. Really? Yeah, said you're nice and you brought ice cream. Well, I do have my priorities straight. Lucas smiled. Seriously, though, thank you for today. You don't have to keep thanking me. I know, but I want to. There was a pause, then, I like being part of this, Lucas. Part of your life. Part of Noah's. It feels right. Lucas stared at the message for a long time before typing back. It feels right to me, too. And for the first time in 5 years, Lucas let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could actually work. Over the next 3 weeks, Ava became a regular presence in Lucas's life in ways that felt both natural and terrifying. She'd show up on Wednesday nights with takeout from whatever place Noah had been talking about wanting to try. She'd help with homework while Lucas finished up paperwork from job sites, her patience with Noah's spelling struggles far exceeding Lucas's own. She'd stay late enough that leaving started to feel wrong, but she always left anyway, like she was being careful not to overstep. Lucas appreciated that. The carefulness. The way she seemed to understand that integrating into their life needed to happen slowly, in pieces, not all at once. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything shifted again. Lucas was at the hardware store loading pressure-treated lumber into his truck bed when his phone rang. He didn't recognize the number, which usually meant a potential client or someone trying to sell him something. Yeah? Is this Lucas Reed? Who's asking? My name's Jennifer. I'm Ava's roommate. We haven't actually met, but she's mentioned you. Lucas stopped what he was doing, wood forgotten. Okay, what's going on? Ava asked me to call you. She's okay, but something happened and she didn't want to bother you herself. But honestly, I think she needs you here. Lucas was already climbing into the truck. Where is she? The bookstore. The one downtown where she works. I'll be there in 10 minutes. He made it in 8, parking illegally in front of a fire hydrant and jogging inside. The bookstore was one of those cramped indie places that smelled like old paper and fresh coffee, with narrow aisles crammed too close together, and a small counter in the back where Ava usually worked her shifts. When Lucas walked in, he found her sitting on a stool behind the register, arms wrapped around herself, staring at nothing with an expression that made his chest tighten. Jennifer was standing next to her, one hand on Ava's shoulder. She was tall, with short dark hair, and an expression that suggested she didn't take crap from anyone. When she saw Lucas, she gave him a small nod. Hey, Lucas said quietly, approaching slowly like Ava might bolt if he moved too fast. Ava looked up, and her eyes were red-rimmed, but she wasn't crying, not anymore. You didn't have to come. Yeah, I did. Lucas glanced at Jennifer. What happened? Jennifer looked at Ava, who gave a small nod of permission. Some guy came in about an hour ago, Jennifer said, her voice tight with controlled anger. Started talking to Ava like he knew her. Turns out he did. Ex-boyfriend. And he wasn't exactly pleasant about things. Lucas felt his jaw tighten, his hands clenching involuntarily. Where is he now? Gone. I told him to leave and he did, but not before he said some things that he had no right to say. Lucas turned his full attention to Ava. You okay? I'm fine. Ava. She exhaled shakily. I'm not fine, but I will be. I just need a minute. Jennifer squeezed Ava's shoulder. I'm going to give you two some privacy. I'll be in the back room doing inventory if you need me, okay? Ava nodded, and Jennifer disappeared through a doorway behind the counter. Lucas pulled up a chair that was meant for customers and sat down directly in front of Ava, close enough that their knees almost touched. Talk to me, he said. Ava didn't meet his eyes at first, just stared at her hands, which were trembling slightly in her lap. It was Derek, the guy I told you about. The one who made you feel small. Yeah, that one. She rubbed her face with both hands. I don't even know why he was here. He lives 2 hours away in the city. But he just showed up out of nowhere, walked in like it was completely normal, started asking about my life like we were old friends catching up. What did he say? Ava was quiet for a moment, gathering herself. At first he was almost nice, asked how I was doing, what I'd been up to. I was polite but distant, hoping he'd get the hint and leave. But when I didn't engage the way he wanted, when I didn't act happy to see him, he got mean. Lucas felt that cold thing settling in his chest again. Mean how? He said I was wasting my time working here, that I'd never finish school because I didn't have the discipline, that I was pathetic for still being in the same place I was when we broke up 8 months ago, doing the same meaningless job, going nowhere. Ava's voice wavered but didn't break. He said the only reason I was working at a bookstore was because I didn't have the guts to do anything real with my life. Lucas reached over and took both her hands in his. They were cold. He's wrong. I know. Do you? Ava finally looked at him, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Most of the time, yeah. But when he's standing there saying all the things I'm already afraid of, it's hard to remember that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Lucas squeezed her hands. You're not wasting your time. You're not stuck. You're building something that matters, on your own terms, at your own pace. And if he can't see that, then he's the one who's small and pathetic, not you. Ava's face crumpled slightly, but she blinked the tears back hard. Why are you so good at this? At what? Saying exactly what I need to hear when I need to hear it. I'm just telling you the truth. I know, and that's what makes it so hard not to believe you. They sat there for a long moment, the sounds of the bookstore settling around them. The hum of the espresso machine from the cafe corner, the quiet conversation of customers browsing the shelves, the soft jazz playing through overhead speakers. Eventually, Ava pulled one hand free and wiped her eyes. Thank you for coming. I know Jennifer probably made it sound like an emergency, and it really wasn't. I just... Stop, Lucas said gently. You don't have to apologize or explain. I wanted to be here. I almost didn't let her call. I almost just dealt with it on my own like I always do. I'm glad you didn't. Ava looked at him searchingly. Why? Because you don't have to do everything alone anymore. That's what this is, isn't it? You and me? Being there when things get hard? Ava's expression softened into something that looked like relief mixed with disbelief. Yeah, I guess it is. Lucas drove her home that evening after her shift ended. She didn't say much during the drive, just stared out the window with her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold something together. When they pulled up to her apartment building, she didn't immediately get out. Do you want to come up? She asked quietly. You sure? Yeah, I don't really want to be alone right now. Okay. Her apartment was small and lived in, exactly what Lucas had pictured. One bedroom, a kitchen barely big enough for two people to stand in at the same time, and a living room that was more books than furniture. Stacks of them everywhere, on the coffee table, beside the couch, in piles against the wall. It was messy in a way that felt comfortable rather than chaotic. Ava dropped her bag by the door and went straight to the couch, curling up in the corner like she was trying to make herself smaller. Lucas sat down next to her, close enough that their knees touched, but giving her space to breathe. I hate that he still gets to me, Ava said to the room at large, not looking at Lucas. It's been 8 months since we broke up. I should be over it by now. That's not how it works. I know, but it feels like it should be. It feels like weakness that I let him affect me this much. It's not weakness, Lucas said firmly. It just means he mattered to you at one point, and it takes time to undo that kind of damage. There's no timeline for healing. Ava turned to look at him. How long did it take you? After Noah's mom left? Lucas thought about it honestly. I'm still working on it in some ways. The anger went away after maybe a year. The hurt took longer. But the fear of letting someone in again? That stuck around until recently. What changed? You did. Ava's eyes filled again, but this time she let the tears fall. I don't know what I did to deserve you showing up in my life. You showed up to a blind date you didn't want to go to and gave me a chance. That's more than enough. She leaned into him then, her head resting on his shoulder, and Lucas wrapped his arm around her. They stayed like that for a long time, the sounds of the city filtering in through the window, traffic, distant sirens, someone's music playing too loud 3 floors down. Lucas felt Ava's breathing slowly even out, felt the tension drain from her shoulders bit by bit. Can I tell you something? She said eventually, her voice muffled against his shirt. Always. I'm scared of how much I'm starting to need you. Lucas tightened his arm around her. Why does that scare you? Because the last time I needed someone, they used it against me. Derek made me feel like needing him was a burden, like I was asking too much just by wanting to matter. And I swore after we broke up that I'd never let myself get that vulnerable again. But here I am, doing it anyway. It's different this time. How do you know? Because I'm not him, and needing someone isn't the same as being dependent on them. You can need me and still be your own person. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Ava pulled back to look at him, her face blotchy from crying but her eyes clear. You really believe that? Yeah, I do. Have you ever needed anyone since Noah's mom? Lucas thought about it. No, not until now. And that doesn't scare you? It terrifies me, he admitted, but I'm doing it anyway because the alternative is staying closed off forever, and I don't want that anymore. Ava studied his face like she was memorizing it. Then she kissed him, and it wasn't soft or tentative like their previous kisses had been. It was certain, almost desperate, like she was trying to prove something to herself. Lucas kissed her back, his hand coming up to cup her face, and when they finally pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. Okay, Ava said softly. Okay, what? Okay, I'm doing this. I'm letting you in. I'm being vulnerable and trusting that you're not going to use it against me. I won't. I know. That's what makes it so scary. They stayed on Ava's couch until almost midnight, talking in low voices about everything and nothing. Lucas told her about the cabin his grandfather had left him, about how it was falling apart, but he couldn't bring himself to sell it. Ava told him about wanting to teach elementary school, specifically because she remembered her own third-grade teacher being the only adult who made her feel like her thoughts mattered. They talked about Noah, about whether Lucas should sign him up for soccer like he wanted, about the strange guilt that came with doing things for yourself when you had a kid depending on you. When Lucas finally stood to leave, Ava walked him to the door and didn't let go of his hand. "Text me when you get home?" she asked. "I will." She kissed him again, slower this time, and Lucas felt the ground shift under his feet in a way that should have scared him, but didn't. "Thank you for today," Ava said, "for dropping everything and showing up, for not making me feel stupid for being upset, for just being here." "You don't have to thank me for that. I wanted to be here." "I know, and that means everything." Lucas drove home with the windows down despite the cold, needing the air to clear his head. When he got back, the babysitter, Mike's niece Sarah again, was on the couch watching something on her phone. "How's Noah?" "Out cold. He tried to stay up, but crashed around 9. Lucas paid her and saw her out, then went to check on his son. Noah was sprawled across his bed in that boneless way kids sleep, mouth open, one sock on and one sock mysteriously missing. Lucas pulled the blanket up over him and stood there for a minute, just watching. He thought about Ava, about the way she'd looked sitting behind that counter, trying to hold herself together, about the way she'd admitted she was scared of needing him, about how brave that admission actually was. And he thought about Derek, about the kind of man who'd make someone like Ava doubt her own worth, about the damage that kind of person could do just by showing up uninvited and saying the exact wrong things. Lucas pulled out his phone and texted Ava. "Home safe. How are you doing?" Her response came a few minutes later. "Better. Thank you again for today. I mean it." "Stop thanking me. I'm glad I could be there." "I'm glad you were too. Good night, Lucas." "Good night." He set his phone down and went to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, stood by the window looking out at the dark street. He made a silent promise to himself right then. If Derek showed up again, Lucas would be there. And next time, he'd make it clear that Ava wasn't alone anymore. The following Saturday, Lucas took Ava and Noah to the zoo. It was Noah's idea. He'd been obsessed with the new penguin exhibit since seeing a commercial about it, and when Lucas mentioned it to Ava, she'd said yes before he even finished the question. They spent the morning wandering from exhibit to exhibit, Noah racing ahead and then circling back to drag them toward whatever animal had caught his attention. He insisted they watch the sea lions get fed, made faces at the monkeys who made faces back, and spent 20 minutes pressed against the glass of the penguin habitat, asking questions Lucas didn't know the answers to. "Why do they walk like that?" "I don't know, bud. That's just how penguins walk." "But why?" Ava crouched down next to Noah. "I think it's because their legs are short and their bodies are built for swimming, not walking, so they waddle to keep their balance." Noah's eyes went wide. "That's so cool." "Yeah, it kind of is." Lucas watched them together, Ava explaining penguin biology with the same patience she'd shown helping Noah with his spelling homework, and felt something warm expand in his chest. This was what he hadn't known he wanted. Someone who didn't just tolerate Noah, but actually engaged with him, who treated him like a person worth listening to. They stopped for lunch at the zoo cafe, getting overpriced hot dogs and fries that Noah declared were the best thing he'd ever eaten. Ava took pictures on her phone when Noah wasn't looking, capturing him mid-laugh with ketchup on his chin, and sent one to Lucas with the caption, "Pretty sure this counts as parenting success." After lunch, they hit the reptile house. which Noah claimed to be brave about, but ended up clinging to Lucas's hand through the whole thing. Ava pretended to be terrified of the snakes, dramatically gasping when they moved, which made Noah feel better about his own fear. "It's okay to be scared," she told him as they left. "Snakes are scary. That's literally their whole thing." "Dad's not scared of anything," Noah said confidently. Lucas laughed. "That's not true. Name one thing you're scared of." Lucas glanced at Ava, who was watching him with an amused expression. "Lots of things. Failing at my job? Something happening at you, running out of coffee. Those don't count." "Why not?" "Because they're boring fears, not like snakes or heights or spiders." "Okay, fine, I'm scared of spiders." Noah looked skeptical. "Really?" "Yep, can't stand them." "Even the tiny ones?" "Especially the tiny ones. They're sneaky." Ava bit back a smile, and Lucas knew she knew he was lying, but she didn't call him out on it. By late afternoon, they were all exhausted. Noah fell asleep at the back seat on the drive back to Lucas's place, and Ava turned down the radio so they wouldn't wake him. "This was really nice," she said quietly. "Yeah, it was. Noah's great. You know that, right?" "I do, but it's good to hear from someone else." "He's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have him." Ava reached over and took Lucas's hand where it rested on the gear shift. "I like this. The three of us together, it feels right." Lucas squeezed her hand. "Yeah, it does." When they got back to the house, Lucas carried Noah inside and put him on the couch with a blanket. Ava started making coffee without being asked, moving around Lucas's kitchen like she'd done it 100 times before. "You don't have to do that," Lucas said. "I know, but I want to." They sat on the porch with their coffee while Noah slept inside, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the yard. Ava pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapping both hands around her mug. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Always." "What do you think about when you think about us? Like where this is going?" Lucas took a sip of his coffee, considering the question. "Honestly, I try not to think too far ahead. I just think about right now, and right now feels good." "That's not an answer." "Yes, it is." "Okay, fine. But what do you want? Long term?" Lucas looked at her directly. "I want you in my life. In Noah's life. I want mornings like this to be normal, not special occasions. I want to stop being scared that you're going to realize this is too complicated and leave." Ava's expression softened. "I'm not going anywhere." "You say that now." "I'll say it tomorrow too, and the day after that." Lucas smiled at her words, his own thrown back at him. "Touché." "I mean it, though," Ava said seriously. "I know I'm scared and I know I'm still figuring out how to do this without losing myself. But I'm here, Lucas. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you. Even with all the complications, the kid, the crazy work schedule, the ex who still shows up uninvited. Especially with all that, because that's real life, not some fairy tale version. And I'd rather have real with you than perfect with someone else." Lucas set down his coffee and pulled her closer, kissing her in the fading afternoon light. When they broke apart, Ava was smiling. "So we're doing this," she said. "For real." "Yeah, we're doing this." Noah's voice came from inside. "Dad, I'm hungry," Ava laughed. "And that's our cue." They went inside together, and Lucas made dinner while Ava and Noah set the table. It was simple. Spaghetti and garlic bread, nothing fancy, but it felt significant somehow, like they were playing at being a family and discovering it didn't feel like playing at all. After dinner, Noah convinced Ava to help him build a Lego spaceship, and Lucas cleaned up the kitchen, listening to their conversation drift in from the living room. "No, that piece goes here." "Are you sure? Because I think it might go there." "Trust me, I'm an expert." "Oh, my mistake. I didn't realize I was working with a professional." Lucas smiled to himself, scrubbing plates and thinking about how much his life had changed in just a few weeks. How empty his house had felt before Ava started showing up. How quiet. When the kitchen was clean, he joined them in the living room. Noah was explaining the intricate details of his spaceship design, while Ava listened with genuine interest, asking questions that made Noah think harder about his choices. "So if the engine goes here, where does the crew sit?" Noah paused, considering. "Oh, I didn't think about that." "That's okay. We can figure it out together." Lucas sat down on the couch and just watched them, feeling that warm thing in his chest expand until it almost hurt. This was what he'd been protecting himself from, this exact feeling of wanting something so much that losing it would break him. But looking at Ava and Noah bent over a pile of Legos, laughing when a piece fell and had to be rebuilt, Lucas realized something important. The risk was worth it. Whatever happened next, however this turned out, having this moment right now was worth every ounce of fear he'd felt about letting her in. Ava looked up and caught him staring. What? Nothing. Just thinking. About what? About how glad I am you showed up to that blind date. She smiled, that real smile that reached her eyes and made his heart do something stupid. Me too. And in that moment, surrounded by Legos and laughter, and the simple comfort of people he cared about, Lucas felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the fragile kind that shattered at the first sign of trouble, but the solid kind that could weather storms and come out stronger on the other side. The kind of hope that made him believe this might actually work. That hope lasted exactly 9 days. It was a Thursday afternoon when Lucas got the call from Ava. He was on a job site, replacing rotted deck boards on a house in the suburbs, when his phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen, and he answered immediately, wedging the phone between his shoulder and ear while he measured a board. Hey. He's here again. Ava's voice was tight, controlled in that way that meant she was barely holding it together. Lucas set down his tape measure, his stomach dropping. Derek? Yeah, he's standing outside the bookstore right now, just watching. Jennifer told him to leave, but he won't. He says he just wants to talk to me. Stay inside, lock the doors, I'm coming. Lucas, you don't have to. I'm already on my way. Don't go outside. Don't engage with him. Just stay where you are. He hung up before she could argue, grabbed his keys, and told his work partner Danny he had an emergency and had to leave. Danny waved him off without question, and Lucas was in his truck before he could think about what he was actually going to do when he got there. The drive to downtown took 15 minutes in traffic that felt deliberately designed to test his patience. When he finally pulled up to the bookstore, he spotted Derek immediately, standing across the street under a streetlight even though it was broad daylight, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the bookstore entrance like he had every right to be there. Lucas parked and turned to look at the passenger seat, where Noah was supposed to be. Except Noah was at school. It was a Thursday. Lucas had a flash of relief that his son wasn't here to see whatever was about to happen, followed immediately by the cold realization of what he was about to do. He got out of the truck and crossed the street. Derek's eyes tracked the movement, and Lucas could see it now, the entitled set of his shoulders, the dismissive way he looked at Lucas like he was an inconvenience rather than a threat. He was maybe Lucas's age, wearing business casual clothes that probably cost more than Lucas made in a week, with the kind of haircut that required maintenance. You Lucas? Derek asked as Lucas approached. Yeah. Figured. Ava's got a type, I guess. Derek's tone was condescending, like he was commenting on the weather. Lucas stopped about 6 feet away, keeping his voice level. What do you want? I want to talk to her. Is that a crime? When she doesn't want to talk to you? Yeah, kind of. Derek's smile was cold. That's not really your call to make, is it? This is between me and Ava. We have history. Had history, past tense, and she's made it clear she doesn't want to see you. Has she? Or did you convince her of that? Derek uncrossed his arms, taking a step forward. Look, man, I don't know what she's told you about us, but it's probably not the whole story. Ava has a tendency to play the victim when things don't go her way. Lucas felt his jaw tighten, but kept his voice steady. I know exactly what kind of person you are, and you're not getting anywhere near her. Derek laughed, sharp and ugly. Oh, really? And who are you supposed to be? Her knight in shining armor? Please, you don't know her. Not like I do. I know enough. Do you know she called me crying at least once a week when we were together? Do you know how lost she was before I came along? I built her up from nothing. I helped her figure out what she wanted to do with her life, and she threw it all away because she got scared of commitment. Lucas took a slow breath, fighting the urge to put his fist through Derek's smug face. That's not what happened, and you know it. You didn't build her up. You tore her down until she didn't recognize herself anymore, and she finally got smart enough to leave. Derek's expression hardened. You think you're better than me? You think you can just swoop in and play hero with some girl you barely know? I'm not playing anything. I'm just here, and you're leaving. Or what? Derek stepped closer, invading Lucas's space deliberately. You gonna make me? Get yourself arrested for assault so Ava can see what kind of man you really are? Lucas didn't move, didn't raise his voice, just looked Derek in the eye and said very clearly, I'm gonna call the police and tell them you've been harassing her, that you've shown up at her work multiple times uninvited, that you're currently refusing to leave after being asked. I've got the bookstore owner as a witness and security footage that shows you've been standing here for over 20 minutes. So, yeah, I'll make you leave, just not the way you're hoping I will. Derek stared at him, and Lucas could see the exact moment the other man realized he wasn't going to get the reaction he wanted, wasn't going to provoke Lucas into doing something stupid. Derek's face flushed red with anger, and maybe embarrassment. She's not worth it, Derek said finally, stepping back. She's going to drag you down just like she did me. She's needy and insecure, and she'll never be satisfied with anything you do. And when she starts showing you that side of herself, don't come crying to me. I won't need to, because unlike you, I actually care about her. Derek's mouth twisted into something bitter. Good luck with that. He turned and walked away, and Lucas stood there watching until Derek rounded the corner and disappeared. Only then did Lucas let out the breath he'd been holding, his hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline he'd been suppressing. He crossed back to the bookstore and pulled open the door. Ava was standing just inside, pressed against the window, arms wrapped around herself so tightly it looked painful. Jennifer was beside her, looking furious and protective in equal measure. When Ava saw Lucas, her face crumpled with relief. Is he gone? Yeah, he's gone. What did you say to him? Lucas walked over to her, keeping his voice calm even though his heart was still racing. That he needed to leave. That if he came back, we'd call the police. Did he try to start something? No. He talked a lot, tried to get under my skin, but he left when he realized it wasn't working. Ava's eyes searched his face. Are you okay? Lucas almost laughed at the question. I'm fine. Are you okay? I don't know. Her voice was small, and Lucas hated hearing her sound like that, diminished, uncertain. I hate this. I hate that he keeps showing up. I hate that I'm standing here shaking because some guy I used to date can't take no for an answer. Lucas reached out and took her hands in his. They were freezing despite the warmth of the store. This isn't your fault. It feels like it is. It's not. He's the one who can't let go. He's the one who keeps crossing boundaries. That's on him, not you. Jennifer spoke up from behind Ava. I'm calling the police anyway. I don't care if he left. This is the third time he's shown up, and I want it on record in case he comes back. That's a good idea, Lucas said, and Jennifer nodded before disappearing into the back room with her phone. Ava pulled her hands free from Lucas's and rubbed her face. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. I'm sorry this is becoming a thing. Stop apologizing. This is what I'm here for. To protect me from my mistakes. You're not a mistake, and he's not your responsibility to manage. He's a grown man making bad choices. Ava looked at him with something between gratitude and despair. How are you so calm about this? He basically challenged you to a fight in the middle of the street. He wanted me to lose my temper, give him an excuse to play victim or get me in trouble. I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. Still, that must have been hard. Lucas thought about Derek's smug face, his condescending tone, the way he'd talked about Ava like she was property he'd misplaced. Yeah, it was hard, but it was worth it to make sure you're safe. Ava's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't shown up. Good thing we don't have to find out. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his chest. Lucas held her tightly, feeling her shake with silent tears, and wished he could do more than just be there. Wished he could erase Derek from existence, rewind time so Ava never had to deal with this. But he couldn't. So he just held her and let her cry. Jennifer came back after a few minutes. Police are sending someone over to take a statement. They said it's good we're documenting this in case we need a restraining order later. Ava pulled back from Lucas, wiping her eyes. A restraining order? Isn't that extreme? No, Jennifer said firmly. It's smart. This guy has shown up 3 times uninvited, refused to leave when asked, and is clearly escalating. Better to have the paperwork started now than wait until something worse happens. Lucas agreed completely but stayed quiet, letting Ava process. Okay, Ava said finally. Okay, yeah, let's do that. The police officer arrived 20 minutes later, a woman in her 40s named Officer Patterson who took detailed notes and asked thorough questions. She was professional but kind, treating Ava's concerns seriously rather than dismissively. When she finished, she handed Ava a card with information about filing for a protective order. Keep documenting everything, Patterson said. Dates, times, what was said. If he contacts you by phone or email, save it all. The more evidence you have, the stronger your case will be. After the officer left, Ava sat down heavily on the stool behind the counter. She looked exhausted in a way that went beyond physical tiredness. I need to get out of here, she said quietly. I can't be in this store right now knowing he was just outside watching. You want to go home? Lucas asked. No, I don't want to be alone. She looked up at him. Can I come to your place? I know Noah's got school and you probably have work, but I need to be somewhere that feels safe. Yeah, of course. Let me call Danny and tell him I'm done for the day. Lucas made the call while Jennifer promised to cover the rest of Ava's shift. They left through the back entrance just in case Derek was still lurking somewhere nearby, and Lucas drove them to his house with one hand on the wheel and the other holding Ava's. When they got there, the house was quiet and empty. Noah wouldn't be home from school for another 2 hours. Ava walked straight to the couch and sat down, pulling her knees to her chest. Lucas sat beside her. You want something to drink? Coffee? Water? No, I just want to sit here for a minute and not think. Okay? They sat in silence for a long time. Lucas didn't try to fill it with reassurances or optimistic platitudes. He just sat there, solid and present, letting Ava have whatever she needed. Finally, she spoke. I need to tell you something. Lucas turned to face her. Okay. I'm scared. Of Derek? No, yes, but that's not what I mean right now. She took a shaky breath. I'm scared of how much I need you, of how much I'm relying on you to make me feel safe. Because that's exactly what happened with Derek at the beginning. I needed him, or I thought I did, and he used that against me for 2 years, and I swore after we broke up that I'd never let myself get that dependent on someone again. Lucas waited, sensing there was more. But with you it's different, Ava continued, her voice small. I don't need you because I can't survive without you. I need you because you make everything better. Because when you're around, I feel like the version of myself I actually want to be. And that terrifies me more than Derek ever could. Why does it terrify you? Because what if it goes away? Ava looked at him directly, her eyes red but clear. What if you wake up one day and realize I'm too much work, that I come with too much baggage, that Noah deserves better than someone who's still dealing with her ex showing up and making scenes? Lucas took both her hands in his. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. Because I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for real. And you're real, Ava. You're honest about your fears and your past and the things that scare you. That's not baggage. That's just being human. But what about Noah? He's getting attached to me. What if this doesn't work out and he gets hurt? What if it does work out and he gets to see what it looks like when two people treat each other well? When someone doesn't run at the first sign of difficulty? Lucas squeezed her hands. I've thought about this a lot. About whether introducing you to Noah was too soon, whether I was being selfish. But watching you two together, seeing how good you are with him, how much he lights up when you're around, I think he needs to see this just as much as I need to live it. Ava's face crumpled and she started crying in earnest now. Not the silent tears from before, but real sobs that shook her shoulders. Lucas pulled her into his arms and let her cry, stroking her hair and murmuring things that probably didn't make sense but felt necessary to say anyway. When she finally calmed down, she pulled back and wiped her face with her sleeves. I'm a mess, she said. So am I. You're not. You're the most stable person I've ever met. Lucas laughed softly. Stable doesn't mean I don't have my own issues. I've spent 5 years building walls to keep from getting hurt again. Being with you means taking those walls down, and that scares me just as much as this scares you. Really? Really. Every time you leave, I wonder if you're going to come back. Every time things get complicated, I wait for you to decide it's not worth it. That's my baggage talking. Ava looked at him with something like wonder. But you do it anyway. Yeah, because you're worth it. She kissed him then, tasting like salt and tears and relief. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. "Neither am I." They stayed like that until they heard the school bus rumble down the street. Ava sat up quickly, wiping her face and trying to compose herself. Lucas squeezed her shoulder. "He's going to notice you've been crying." "I know. What should I tell him?" "The truth. That you had a hard day and you're here because being around us makes you feel better. That simple?" Kids appreciate honesty more than we think. Noah burst through the door 30 seconds later, backpack flying, already talking about something that happened during gym class. He stopped short when he saw Ava on the couch. "Ava, what are you doing here?" "Hey, Noah, I had a rough day at work, so your dad said I could hang out here for a bit. Is that okay?" Noah dropped his backpack and climbed onto the couch beside her. "Yeah, that's okay. Do you want to see what I made in art class?" "Absolutely." He ran to his room and came back with a painting of what might have been a dragon or possibly a very angry cat. Ava studied it seriously, asking questions about his color choices and whether the creature breathed fire or ice. Noah explained his artistic vision in great detail, and Lucas watched Ava transform from the scared, shaken woman from an hour ago into someone fully present for his son. That night, after Noah was in bed, Ava stayed. She helped Lucas clean up the dinner dishes, and they moved to the porch with coffee, even though it was too cold to really be comfortable out there. "Thank you for today," Ava said, wrapping her hands around her mug. "For dropping everything, for dealing with Derek, for just being exactly what I needed. You already thanked me, multiple times. I know. But I need you to understand how much it meant. My whole life, I've had to deal with my problems alone, figure things out by myself. And having someone actually show up when I needed them, that's new for me." Lucas set down his coffee and turned to face her. "It shouldn't be new. You deserve people who show up." "I'm starting to believe that." "Good." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the occasional car drive past, listening to the neighborhood settle into evening quiet. "Can I ask you something?" Ava said eventually. "Always. When you think about us, about where this is going, what do you see?" Lucas thought about it carefully, wanting to give her the truth. "I see mornings where you're here when Noah and I wake up. I see you grading papers at my kitchen table while I work on job estimates. I see Sunday dinners and quiet evenings and all the normal boring stuff that actually makes life good. I see you and me figuring things out as we go, making mistakes and fixing them together." Ava was quiet for a long moment. "That sounds really nice." "Yeah?" "Yeah, it sounds like everything I've wanted, but been too scared to admit I wanted." "You don't have to be scared, not with me." "I'm trying not to be." She looked at him directly. "I'm falling in love with you, Lucas, and I know it's fast and maybe too soon to say it, but after today, after Derek and the police and everything, I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to play it safe and pretend this is casual when it's not." Lucas felt his chest tighten in the best possible way. "I'm falling in love with you too." "Yeah?" "Yeah. Have been for a while, actually. Just didn't know when the right time to say it was." Ava smiled, and even in the dim porch light, he could see the relief in her expression. "So we're doing this. Really doing this. We're doing this." She kissed him, and it felt different this time. Not tentative or exploring, but certain, like they'd both finally stopped hedging their bets and decided to go all in. When they finally went back inside, it was late. Ava grabbed her keys, but Lucas stopped her. "Stay." "Lucas, I don't have any clothes here, and Noah's upstairs." "I know. I'm not suggesting anything complicated. I just mean stay on the couch, or take the guest room. I just don't want you going home alone tonight after everything that happened." Ava looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, the couch is fine." Lucas got her blankets and a pillow, and she settled in while he checked on Noah one more time. When he came back down, Ava was already curled up under the blanket, looking more relaxed than she had all day. "Thank you," she said softly, "for all of it. Stop thanking me and get some sleep. Bossy. Yeah, well, someone has to be." She smiled and closed her eyes, and Lucas stood there for a moment watching her breathe, feeling the weight of the day finally starting to lift. He went upstairs to his own room but lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling and thinking about everything that had happened. About Derek's words, meant to hurt, but ultimately empty. About Ava's tears and her admission that she was falling in love with him. About Noah asking if Ava was okay and actually caring about the answer. They were building something real here. Messy and complicated and imperfect, but real. And Lucas realized with startling clarity that he'd choose this messy reality over any perfect fantasy every single time. Because this was worth fighting for. Ava was worth fighting for. And for the first time since Kristen left, Lucas wasn't afraid of that fight. He was ready for it. Lucas woke up to the sound of voices downstairs. For a disoriented moment, he thought something was wrong. But then he heard Noah's laugh followed by Ava's voice explaining something about pancakes, and he relaxed. He checked his phone, 6:30 in the morning, earlier than Noah usually got up on a Friday. He pulled on sweatpants and a t-shirt and headed downstairs. The scene that greeted him stopped him in the doorway. Ava was at the stove in the same clothes from yesterday, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, flipping pancakes while Noah sat at the kitchen table in his pajamas, chattering about some dream he'd had involving dinosaurs and spaceships. And then the T-Rex got in the rocket ship, but he was too big, so he had to stick his tail out the window. That sounds aerodynamically challenging, Ava said seriously. What's aerodynamically? It means the rocket would have trouble flying with a tail sticking out. Oh, well, in my dream it worked fine. Dream physics are different. That's a scientific fact. Noah giggled, and Lucas felt that warm thing in his chest again, the one that had been showing up more and more lately. Morning, he said, walking into the kitchen. Ava turned, and he could see the slight nervousness in her expression, like she wasn't sure if making breakfast was overstepping. Hey, I hope this is okay. Noah came downstairs and said he was hungry, and you were still sleeping, so I thought, it's perfect, Lucas said, cutting off her explanation. He walked over and kissed her forehead, which made Noah make a face, but not a disgusted one, more like an amused one. Are you guys going to be gross now? Noah asked. Probably, Lucas said. You'll survive. They ate breakfast together, and it felt so normal that Lucas had to remind himself this wasn't routine yet, that Ava staying over was still new, still fragile. But watching her butter Noah's pancakes while Noah told her about the science project he had to do on clouds, Lucas couldn't imagine his mornings any other way. After Noah was dressed and ready for school, Lucas drove him while Ava stayed behind to shower and borrow some of Lucas's clothes, since she didn't have anything else. When Lucas got back, she was on the porch, in a pair of his sweatpants rolled up at the ankles and one of his old work shirts, drinking coffee and looking out at the street. Those look good on you, Lucas said, sitting down beside her. They're huge. I look like I'm playing dress-up. Still look good. Ava smiled into her coffee cup. What time do you have to be at work? Not until 9. Danny's handling the morning. What about you? Not until noon. Jennifer's covering the opening. She paused. I should probably go home at some point. Get actual clothes. Deal with real life. You don't have to rush. I know, but I also can't hide out here forever. Lucas took her free hand. You're not hiding. You're just being where you feel safe. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah. Hiding means avoiding the problem. Being here means dealing with it from a place of strength. Ava looked at him. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I just know what it's like to be scared of moving forward. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking coffee and watching the neighborhood wake up. A jogger ran past. Someone's dog barked 3 houses down. A garbage truck rumbled by. Normal Friday morning things that felt significant somehow. Can I tell you what I'm thinking? Ava asked eventually. Always. I'm thinking about how much my life has changed in 2 months. How different everything feels now compared to when Jennifer first told me about that blind date. She turned to face him. I almost didn't go, you know. I sat in my car for 15 minutes trying to talk myself into just going home. What changed your mind? Stubbornness, mostly. I didn't want to prove Jennifer right, that I was too scared to even try. But also curiosity. I wanted to see if I could do it without falling apart. And I met you. And nothing's been the same since. Lucas set down his coffee and pulled her closer. Good different or bad different? Terrifying different, but good. She rested her head on his shoulder. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to realize this is too complicated, or I'm too damaged, or Noah deserves someone less messy. That's not going to happen. You keep saying that because it keeps being true. Ava was quiet for a moment, then said, I want to believe you. I'm trying to believe you. But there's still this voice in my head that sounds like Derek, telling me I'm not enough. Lucas turned to face her fully, taking both her hands. Listen to me. That voice is wrong. It's always been wrong. You are enough. You're more than enough. And I need you to start believing that, because I can't keep watching you doubt yourself when I can see so clearly how incredible you are. Ava's eyes filled with tears. How do you do that? Do what? Say exactly what I need to hear when I need to hear it. I'm just telling you the truth. She kissed him, tasting like coffee and something sweeter, and when she pulled back, she was smiling through tears. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, I'm going to try. To believe you. To stop waiting for everything to fall apart. She took a shaky breath. I'm going to choose this. Choose us. Even though it scares me. That's all I'm asking. They stayed on the porch until Ava's coffee got cold, and Lucas realized he needed to shower before work. When she finally stood to leave, Lucas walked her to her car. Text me when you get home, he asked. I will. And if Derek shows up again, I'll call the police immediately, and then I'll call you. In that order? In that order, she agreed. She kissed him goodbye and drove away, and Lucas stood in his driveway watching until her car disappeared around the corner. Then he went inside to get ready for work, his mind already counting the hours until he'd see her again. The next week passed in a blur of normalcy that felt almost suspicious. Lucas worked on 3 different projects. Noah had no incidents at school, and Ava's restraining order application was approved without Derek contesting it. She got the official paperwork on a Tuesday, and Lucas took her out to dinner to celebrate. I can't believe it was that easy, Ava said, looking at the document like it might disappear. Sometimes things work out the way they're supposed to. I keep expecting him to show up, to violate it immediately just to prove he can. If he does, he gets arrested. I don't think he's that stupid. I hope you're right. Lucas reached across the table and took her hand. Either way, you're not alone in this. You know that, right? I do now. They finished dinner and drove back to Lucas's place, where Noah was waiting with Mike and Claire. They'd started doing regular Friday night dinners together. The 6 of them crowded around Lucas's kitchen table with whatever Claire had decided to cook that week. Tonight, it was lasagna, and Noah had already eaten 2 helpings by the time Lucas and Ava arrived. Someone was hungry, Claire observed, smiling at Noah, who was working on a 3rd piece. It's really good, Noah said through a mouthful of pasta. Chew first, talk second, Lucas reminded him. Mike leaned back in his chair looking at Lucas with barely contained smugness. So, you 2 seem good. We are, Lucas said simply. That's it? That's all I get? What do you want, Mike? A detailed report? Yes, actually. Claire swatted her husband's arm. Leave them alone. They're happy. That's all that matters. I'm just saying, I called it. I knew Ava was the one. Ava laughed. You set up 1 successful blind date and suddenly you're a matchmaker? 1 successful blind date is better than most people manage. I'm considering starting a side business. Please don't, Claire said. Your regular business barely works as it is. Everyone laughed, and the conversation drifted to other things. Noah challenged Mike's kids to a Lego building competition, and the adults sat around the table talking about nothing important while the kids played in the living room. At one point, Claire pulled Ava aside to help with dessert, and Lucas found himself alone with Mike for the first time all evening. So, Mike said, you gonna marry her or what? Lucas nearly choked on his beer. What? You heard me. You're in love with her. Don't try to deny it. I'm not denying anything. I'm just wondering why you're bringing up marriage. Because I know you, man. You don't do anything halfway. You're either all in or all out, and you're all in with Ava. So the question is when, not if. Lucas thought about that. It's too soon. Is it? You've known her 2 months. You've introduced her to Noah. She's at your place more than her own. Seems like you're already living the married life, just without the paperwork. There's a difference between dating seriously and getting married. Sure. But what's the difference for you specifically? What are you waiting for? Lucas didn't have a good answer for that. He was saved from having to come up with one by Ava and Claire returning with pie, apple and cherry, just like the diner that first week. And the conversation shifted again. But Mike's question stuck with him. What was he waiting for? That night, after everyone had left and Noah was asleep, Lucas and Ava sat on the porch like they always did. It was getting colder now, deep into fall, and they had to bundle up in blankets to be comfortable outside. Mike asked me something tonight, Lucas said. Yeah? What? If I was going to marry you. Ava went very still. What did you say? I said it was too soon. Oh. She sounded disappointed, which surprised him. But then he asked what I was waiting for, and I didn't have a good answer. Ava turned to look at him. What does that mean? Lucas chose his words carefully. It means I'm not waiting because I'm unsure. I'm waiting because I don't want to rush you. I don't want you to feel pressured or think this is moving too fast. So if it was just up to you, if it was just up to me, I'd already know where this is going. But it's not just up to me. It's up to both of us. Ava was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, What if I'm not scared of it moving fast? What if I'm more scared of wasting time pretending this is casual when it's not? Lucas felt his heart rate pick up. Are you saying, I'm saying I love you, and I love Noah, and I can see a future here that I never thought I'd get to have. And maybe it's too soon to talk about marriage, but it's not too soon to know that's where I want this to go eventually. Lucas pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her. Eventually works for me. Yeah? Yeah. They sat like that for a long time, wrapped in blankets in each other, watching their breath fog in the cold air. Eventually, Ava spoke again. Can I ask you something? Always. The cabin you mentioned, your grandfather's place. Can we go there? Just the two of us for a weekend? What about Noah? I love Noah, but I want some time with just you. Time to figure out what we are without worrying about being good examples or keeping it appropriate. Lucas smiled. Okay, yeah. Let me talk to Mike about watching Noah. Really? Really? Ava kissed him, and Lucas felt that warm certainty spreading through his chest again. This was right. She was right. And whatever came next, they'd figure it out together. 2 weeks later, Lucas drove them out to the cabin. It was a Friday afternoon, gray and cold with the smell of rain in the air. Noah was safely deposited with Mike and Claire for the weekend, armed with enough Legos and video games to keep him occupied for a month. The cabin looked even more run down than Lucas remembered. The porch sagged on one side, several windows were cracked, and the whole structure leaned slightly to the left like it was tired. But the roof was solid and the wood stove still worked, and that was enough. It's perfect, Ava said, getting out of the truck. It's a disaster. Same thing. They spent the afternoon cleaning, sweeping out dust and cobwebs, airing out rooms that smelled like disuse, checking for leaks and structural problems. Ava found an old photo album in a closet and spent 20 minutes looking through pictures of Lucas's grandfather, asking questions about him that Lucas realized he'd never thought to ask when the old man was alive. By evening, the place was livable. Lucas got the wood stove going while Ava made sandwiches from the supplies they'd brought. They ate sitting on the floor in front of the fire, the cabin creaking around them as it settled into the night. This is nice, Ava said, leaning against Lucas's shoulder. Yeah, it is. When's the last time you were here? Maybe 3 years? I kept meaning to come back, fix the place up, but then there was always something more urgent to deal with. Like raising Noah. Like raising Noah, Lucas agreed. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the fire. Eventually, Ava spoke. I need to tell you something. Lucas felt a spike of worry. Okay. I'm scared. Of what? Of how good this feels. Of how much I want it to last. She turned to look at him, firelight catching her face. Every other time I've felt this way about someone, it's fallen apart. And I keep waiting for that to happen with us. What would it take for you to stop waiting? Ava thought about it. I don't know. Time, maybe. Proof that this is different. How much time? I don't know that either. Lucas shifted so he was facing her fully. Here's what I know. I love you. I want to build a life with you. I want you to move in with me and Noah, officially, not just staying over 3 nights a week. I want to wake up next to you every morning and go to sleep next to you every night. I want to fix up this cabin with you and bring Noah here on weekends. I want all of it. Ava's eyes were wide. Lucas, I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm just telling you where I am. So you know. So you can stop wondering if I'm going to bail when things get hard. I'm not. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Ava's face crumpled and she started crying, but she was also smiling. You can't just say things like that. Why not? Because it makes it really hard to maintain my defensive pessimism. Lucas laughed and pulled her into his arms. Good. Your defensive pessimism is overrated anyway. She hit his chest lightly but didn't pull away. I want all of that too. The moving in, the mornings, the cabin weekends. All of it. Yeah? Yeah, I'm terrified, but yeah. They stayed up late talking about logistics. When Ava's lease was up, 2 months. Whether she'd get her own room or share Lucas's. Share, obviously, but keep her books and workspace separate. How to handle it with Noah. Tell them together. Make it clear this was permanent. What to do about Derek if he showed up again. Restraining order was in effect. Call police immediately. Don't engage. When they finally went to bed, Lucas held Ava close in the darkness, listening to the cabin settle around them and the wind moving through the trees outside. Thank you, Ava whispered. For what? For not giving up on me. For being patient while I figured out how to trust this. You don't have to thank me for that. I know, but I want to anyway. Lucas kissed the top of her head. Get some sleep. Lucas? Yeah? I love you. I love you too. The next morning, Lucas woke to rain hammering the roof and Ava's side of the bed empty. He found her on the covered porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching water pour off the eaves. You okay? He asked, sitting beside her. Yeah, just thinking. About what? About how different my life looks now compared to a year ago. How lost I felt back then, and how found I feel now. She looked at him. That probably sounds cheesy. Sounds honest. They spent the rainy morning inside, cooking breakfast together and playing cards and talking about everything and nothing. At one point, Ava pulled Lucas onto the ancient couch and kissed him until they were both breathless, and Lucas thought about how far they'd come from that awkward first date at the restaurant. When the rain finally stopped in the afternoon, they went for a walk along the creek behind the cabin. The woods smelled like wet earth and pine, and the creek was running high and fast from all the rainfall. Noah would love this, Ava said, watching the water. We'll bring him next time. Promise? Promise. They walked until they found a fallen log to sit on, and Ava pulled out her phone to take a picture of the creek. Then she turned the camera on them, pulling Lucas close for a selfie. They looked happy in it, genuinely happy, not performing for anyone. Send me that, Lucas said. Already did. On this drive home Sunday afternoon, they stopped at a diner for lunch. It wasn't the same diner from their second date, but it had the same vibe. Worn booths and laminated menus and coffee that was too strong. I don't want to go back to real life, Ava said, drowning her fries in ketchup. Real life isn't so bad. Real life has work and responsibilities, and Derek potentially showing up. Real life also has Noah and lazy Wednesday nights and mornings like yesterday. Ava smiled. Okay, when you put it that way, real life sounds pretty good. That's because it is. They finished lunch and got back on the road. When they pulled up to Lucas's house, Mike's car was in the driveway, which meant Noah was probably inside driving everyone crazy. Ready? Lucas asked. Ava took his hand. Ready. They walked in together, and Noah immediately ran over, launching into a detailed account of everything he'd done that weekend. Mike and Claire were in the kitchen, looking exhausted but happy. How was the cabin? Claire asked, giving them both knowing looks. Good. Really good, Lucas said. Just good? Ava laughed. It was perfect. We're definitely going back. After Mike and Claire left, the three of them settled into their usual evening routine. Dinner, homework, help for Noah even though it was Sunday, some TV time, then bedtime. When Noah was tucked in and half asleep, he grabbed Lucas's hand. "Dad? Yeah, bud? Is Ava going to live with us?" Lucas glanced at Ava, who was standing in the doorway. "Would that be okay with you?" Noah thought about it seriously. "Yeah, she makes good pancakes and she's nice, and she helps with my homework better than you do." Lucas tried not to laugh. "Thanks for that. Just being honest? Get some sleep, honest person." Noah grinned and rolled over, and Lucas and Ava stepped into the hallway. "Well," Ava whispered. That was easier than expected. Kids are simple. They just want to know people aren't going anywhere. Smart kids. They went downstairs and settled on the couch. Ava curled into Lucas's side, and they sat in comfortable silence, the TV playing something neither of them was watching. 2 months, Ava said. What? My lease is up in 2 months, and then I'm moving in here for real. Yeah? Yeah, I'm done being scared. I'm done waiting for things to fall apart. I'm just going to be here and be happy and deal with problems if they come up. Lucas kissed her forehead. That sounds like a good plan. You think? I know. And sitting there with Ava in his arms, his son asleep upstairs, his house finally feeling like a home instead of just a place he kept Noah safe, Lucas realized something important. He'd been so focused on protecting what he had that he'd forgotten how good it felt to build something new, to take risks, to let someone in despite all the reasons not to. But Ava had changed that. She'd shown up to a blind date she didn't want to go to and somehow ended up changing his entire life. 2 months later, on a Saturday morning in December, Mike and Danny helped move Ava's stuff into Lucas's house. It didn't take long. She didn't have that much, mostly books and clothes and kitchen things she insisted Lucas needed, even though he'd survived just fine without a proper vegetable peeler. Noah supervised the whole operation, directing people where to put boxes, and declaring that Ava's books should go in the living room because that's where people can see them. By evening, everything was moved in and the house looked different, more lived in, more complete. That night, after Noah was asleep, Lucas and Ava stood in what was now their bedroom, looking at the boxes they hadn't unpacked yet. This is really happening, Ava said. Having second thoughts? No, just making sure it's real. Lucas pulled her close. It's real. Good. They stood like that for a long time, neither of them moving to unpack or get ready for bed, just holding each other and letting the reality of it all sink in. Hey, Lucas? Yeah? Thank you for showing up that night, for giving us a chance when you could have just gone through the motions and left. Thank you for being worth showing up for. Ava pulled back to look at him. We're pretty good at this, aren't we? At what? At being honest. At not giving up when things get hard. At choosing each other. Lucas smiled. Yeah, we're pretty good at that. And later, lying in bed with Ava curled against his side and the house quiet around them, Lucas thought about everything that had led to this moment. The blind date he hadn't wanted to go to. The conversations that went deeper than small talk. The way Ava had shown up for Noah without hesitation. The confrontation with Derek. The late-night talks on the porch. The cabin weekend in the rain. All of it had brought them here. To this moment. To this life they were building together. It wasn't perfect. There would be hard days ahead, Ava's past, Lucas's fears, the complications of blending lives. But they'd face those together, because that's what they did now. They chose each other, every day, in big ways and small ways, through fear and uncertainty and all the messy parts of being human. And that choice, that daily, deliberate choice to show up and try and be honest, was what made it real. Lucas closed his eyes, Ava's breathing evening out beside him, and felt grateful for the first time in years. Not for perfect circumstances or easy answers, but for this. For her. For the unexpected gift of a second chance at building something that mattered. And as he drifted off to sleep, Lucas's last thought was simple and certain. This was just the beginning.